Good morning. It's Friday, the 14th of March 2025, and it's a good, bright, slightly chilly morning as we've had a week of here in rural Ireland. You're welcome back. And this video is about the visit of the Irish delegation on the Taoiseach to meet President Trump in Washington and the subsequent incident in relation to the Burke family. Anyway, now, where do I start with this? I think from looking at the Burke family that they're a bit awkward, as they say. I'd say they would be a bit awkward. They're very straight, very religious. The names of their children is Isaac and Amy. Nothing wrong with that. I'd say they're just real strong Christians, which is nothing wrong with that. I was educated by them, and I have no evidence that Enoch Burke was anyway into corporal punishment or slapping children. I was beaten at school by Catholic teachers until I fainted because my stomach was empty. I hadn't had anything to eat from 8 o'clock that morning, and it was about 3 o'clock, and I fainted. They walloped me so much for some type of a lessing or not having something done or not able to spell a word or something that I actually fainted. And many of my classmates, the same happened. And the master that did it had the cheek to come in and said that it hurt him more than it hurt me. Later on, I give him an introduction to this, and it done him good, done him the world of good. Anyway, the thing about it is that's another situation. The Burke family went over to Washington and they put up a protest. And it was obvious from the protest that they weren't answering questions right. And this is a trait I see in them. This is where they differ from me. They don't push their case. And I think this is what may have happened in the law case, although I'm not totally familiar with that. Now, Dan Quinn the event was in the National Building Museum. And I think it's the NFL he was talking on behalf. Anyway, he was talking about some Irish American cause, and he was giving a speech when the Burkes arrived into the hall. Now, I'm sure Mr. Burke is a well done Irishman, and he's good as maybe a patriot as I am, and hopefully maybe he knows a little bit more about the rascals that are running our darling country, and who I have dedicated a nice part of my life to beating them at all costs every way I can, and enjoying it in the process. Michele Martin is a cowardly rascal. Simons Harris is a cowardly rascal. That's all he is. And they're over and back, running up the backsides of the EU and Ursula von der Leyen, and they're ploughing for war, and they might get enough of it yet. In any event, anyway, so Mrs. Burke was complaining, that was Enoch's mother. Enoch didn't go himself, that her son was put into jail with sex offenders and murderers. I mean, a man like that put down, that's what they do. This is what the Irish state does. The woke crowd, you see, all of this stuff with calling a by day, this is the homosexual extremes. It's not the ordinary gay person. It's the homosexual radicals and their followers. And I see Rosie O'Donnell's coming to Ireland. God, we'll have to have a run-in with her if we can. Would it be great if we could make a video with Rosie, me and her debating this out. Anyway, I hope you know who Rosie is. If you don't, you're not at the races at all. But anyway, the thing about it is that So Enoch refused to call a by they, and they're pushing these pronouns. And as I say, this is the radical homosexual woke cultural Marxist mass migration disease that Trump had to fight in America. This is it. And their ideology, and I have locked horns with them on Irish social media, is we'll force you, Val Martin, to call a by day and we'll enjoy it. This is what they existed for. The school that had Enoch Burke teaching knew who he was and what the implications of having this rule imposed was. This was done for pure badness, and their message, this LBGTPQ, is all to do with badness. If they could make me an old farmer with cows, right, if they could make me be forced to call a boy they or a girl him, or recommend a girl to have her breast cut off at 17 years of age, they would think that's great. This is the humiliating end of it. It's a humiliation exercise against conservative people. That's what it is. Because I know them. I locked horns with them on the Irish social media, and politics.ie is a mostly a gay homosexual Irish website, and I know every move and everything they think. So that's what it is. So if I were now a young man and I was becoming a teacher, I would be facing this. That's one of the first things they'd try to force down my throat. The trouble with them there and me is that I'd fight it better. Now, so that's what they have their son doing, and they are revelling in that. Their chief architect in Ireland is Helen McEntee, the Minister for Education, who never ever thinks of anything when she's around privately, only how she can persecute Irish Christian people. A woman from Nobber, from the arsehole of Ireland, has the cheek to come along and get into this position. And that's why we have the right to face them down. And Michele Martin is the ugly face of it. I know Helen McEntee is Fine Gael. You wouldn't expect anything better there, but nevertheless, he didn't have to agree to putting her into education. She didn't have to get a portfolio at all. Anyway, that's the way the people around Nobber are. And the devil mend them. The devil mend them. They'll never have luck for it. Not a minute's luck will they have for electing that yoke. Now, so the Burke's accused Michele Martin of deceiving the American people, and that's the way it is. The majority of American people voted against this stuff, and Michele Martin was over trying to put a brave face. Now, at the same time, I do appreciate that Michele Martin had to go and do the Patrick's Day gig. I'm not particularly complaining to that, and he had to try and get over as best he could. But so we have to make that a little allowance. But anyway, so the Burkes got into the building, and there was a schmozzle in the middle of Mr. Quinn's speech and caused serious embarrassment to the Irish delegation and the whole lot of them. And the security were called, and Mrs. Burke's high heel shoe got caught in the big drapes. It shows her there online. Unfortunately, I haven't my laptop yet. I'm so busy. And she fell, and there was a few things like that. Thankfully, I don't think any of them were injured. They give us all a bloody good laugh and all of that. So needless to say, RT is waxing lyrical. All the lefties are that happen to have, for the moment, a grip on our politics. But don't forget, as America has proved, that could change. It could change. It mightn't change from within, but we'll force Trump up, yes, whether he is elected or not. And he's putting the tariffs on Ireland, and we're going to force them to trade fairly. And people, there's this, we're paying this and we're paying that. There's a table designed for that. I have one here, a table. You sit down and debate it. The Canadians are putting a 200, have been for the last 40 years, putting a 200% tariff on American butter going into Canada and on American lumber, on American timber. 200%. And that's, I only checked that, and that's enough. So let them pull that out. That's just, I don't know what's happening here with Kerrygold and Irish whiskey. It would be tragic if we lose either our dairy market into America or our whiskey market, which is it's been built up so painstakingly by the most excellent quality products, and that has to be given. I don't always criticise. I'm a beef producer myself, but I have to be honest about that. The quality of our dairy products is second to none, and the quality of our whiskey is second to none. So I give credit where it's due, and I wouldn't like to see that damage. But for now, anyway, the racket will go on, and I'm sure it will be dealt with. Now, I think the Burkes are a bit awkward. They're contrary, but they're not perfect, and they're not as smart as me. And it's not. You can't expect people to be as smart as me. In all fairness, now you can't expect that. I'm the exception. I'm more intelligent than President Trump. And we think alike. Now, there's rumours going around that he wasn't shot in the ear. I don't think he was shot. You'll hear that. I think he had no blood on his hand. I mean, the bullet clipped him here, took a piece out of his ear, only a tiny piece, the diameter of that pencil. So it was going like that. And it bled his ear. And because he hadn't his hand covered in blood when he took it down, he wasn't shot at all. And then a man called Corrie was shot dead and buried. And an inquest held, that doesn't matter, that was an accident. And then there was another person injured. So there is a strong sense about it that Trump wasn't shot. We'll deal with that in another video. Now, so we'll now look at some of the things about it. One is, what's the attitude of the Irish National Teachers? Isn't that who they are? It's the Irish National. It used to be the INTO. My sister was a teacher, and she would be disgusted at this. But so what's with the teachers' unions? What about the teachers' unions? I think it got to the stage where men couldn't teach in school. The little brats were making that much false accusations about sexual attacks by masters, which was untrue, that boys wouldn't apply for teaching posts. And that's why an awful lot of today's youngsters can't hang a picture on the wall, because all the women can do is do poetry and English and all that. And I knew an English teacher, and she was that bad that even the travellers, the tinkers, used to get grinds for their children. She was that bad. She was a disaster. She'd be teaching them stuff that wasn't on the curriculum or hadn't a hope of coming up. This is what's going on. But some schools and some school boards, and they're religiously run, do try to control these mad villains. I knew a school one time where there was a woke woman. That was 20 years ago. She was demanding to be made principal, and the clergy didn't never become principal. She was going to ram in woke that time. They have them eating maggots up in Meath in the schools. So if there are any youngsters who ever wants to contact me, needless to say, if there's a school debating society, I'm all ears, always willing and ready. I'll never be let anywhere, because they wouldn't stand a chance with me in a fair debate. So the thing about it is, anyway, what are the teachers doing? They must be for this. They must be for this stuff. Why aren't the clergy talking about it? Where's the Catholic clergy and the Protestant clergy? Well, I know that there's a large number of priests, and was always, who were homosexual. I mean, that was always well known. Still, where's the old principles? I don't know. Now, we're going to look at a few questions. I claim that the Burkes didn't do their job right, they didn't argue right, and they're not good people to debate. If they put the microphone in front of me, I'd answer the questions. But everyone can't be like me. And also, questions were put to them, how did they fund their trip out there? I mean, how much is a ticket to Washington on a plane? Wouldn't it be nice if they could have answered, we got help from a number of people, including a farmer with cows in Ireland, Michele Martin. He gave us a few pounds and they come over and interview me. There'll be some fun. We need to do down, hurt and humiliate the woke crowd every way we can. It's the best fun ever you engaged in. No football match can ever match doing down the wokes. No worry, man. Oh, it's like if I get my hands on Rosie O'Donnell. Now, I'm metaphorically speaking. I think if I was to put my hands on her, I'd need a scaffold. I get the scaffold out. If we were talking about that way, you know what I mean? If I get my hands on her. I mean to debate. Anyway. She's a big biddy, full of woke, and anti-Trump. Anyway, the thing about it is the Section 1B of the Unfair Dismissals Act. It says unfair dismissal is now I've this written down because I have no computer. The termination by an employee of his or her contract of employment with his or her employer, whether there's prior notice or not, because of the conduct of the employer. The conduct of the employer. Williamstown Hospital School brought in a woke one, and she made a rule that you had to call her by him. And that's outlawed in the United States by President Trump. So that's the first rule. So what was the conduct of them? Was that under the law? Now, there's two things. There's the contract test. That's where the employer broke the contract. So I would plead that the employment contract for Enoch Burke was that he would teach as normal. They would teach in a Christian school and be entitled to believe that that was the case. And if there was going to be a change of policy, it should have been discussed with him and teachers and some form of agreement reached. That the rule to call a by they should not have been brought in without consultation. Now, I'm going to digress a little bit. Does anyone know who the boy was? Because I'm going down to meet. I'll call to the house. Right? I want to see the parents. Who is that boy? As far as I understand the law, there is no inhibitor legally on me naming that boy because he's not convicted of any offence. It's only if he's charged with an offence or if he's a victim. But there's no offence here, and I believe I can publicly name him and his two parents on this channel. And I do it with gusto. With gusto. You write to me, Val Martin, Kingscourt, Ireland. That's the way I feel about it. I'm not a passive campaigner. Why shouldn't we name him? He caused all this hassle. Where is he now? He could be doing mixed martial arts, full of beans and full of testosterone, for all we know. Don't forget to write up. He's so and so. I'll go down someday and inquire of them. I'd just walk straight up to him and his parents and ask them. So what, he give me a book of the year, I'd get over it. It wouldn't be the first wallop I got. Anyway, so that's the employer test. The contract. Did the school break the contract of employment when he was employed? They can't change it midstream. If you take a big hardware company like Chadwick's, we'll say in Dublin, or Chadwick's in Navan, or Lenihan's in Capel Street, they have their staff there entitled to work under the English language, and if there's a bit of Irish needed, they can get someone in to help. If there comes someone in to speak Chinese, they can say, we don't speak Chinese. They can bring in someone, or they can get someone that can speak Chinese. That's what the Garda Síochána do if they're interviewing somebody in a foreign language. They bring in an interpreter. But you can't force the staff to learn Chinese. So supposing Lenihan's was sold to a new company and they brought in a rule that the staff had to be competent in Chinese, they can't do that because that's a breach of the original contract. They could say to them, we'll give you a wee bit of an incentive. Is there anyone here would do a little bit of lessons? Or they can apply a lady of the Chinese Irish community there or have her on standby for that. But they can't force it on the people. So the first thing I would say is the contract test was never put before the court and followed through an appeal. If it was, this misfortune would never happen. The second thing is the reasonableness test. Did the employer behave unreasonably? I would say that any deviation from the norms of our society and our education system would be a breach of the reasonableness test. All Enoch Burke did was continue as he always did. So there's the way I would plead that. And I'm beginning to think that the Burkes tied the judge's hands and that they put it and pleaded in such a way that the judge couldn't do anything, only rule against them. Now, I don't agree with that. You must plead your case before the court. I don't agree with it. So right, that's that. Is there anything can be done now? I wonder how many people in Ireland feel the way I do. Now, I haven't the will or the time or the energy to start campaigning for another go at Mr. Burke's case. I'd love to see it pushed right through to the European Court of Human Rights, and I'd love to see it pushed through to the Irish Supreme Court. The basic principle behind it. If all went all, I might act as treasurer, as an overseer, to make sure there's no funny business. But then when you collect money, if you don't spend it, you're left with it stuck there. You could have a proviso in it that it goes to some charity or other. I've done that before and it worked very well. But the day of me acting as treasurer is rapidly coming to an end. I'm so busy with windmills and everything else. So I can't really say much more than that to you folks. Now, an important point on this is there a law made by the Dáil on this transgenderism? And was there any dull debate or any vote or anything? Who made this law? If there was, you could challenge it in the courts on the Constitution. The second point, and the Burkes made the point of fighting this transgender agenda. The second point is, who decides that a claim by a man or a woman to be of the opposite sex is genuine or is legal? What if a guard is arresting a young girl up in Talbot Street for stealing a woman's purse? And he's obviously a boy with a boy's voice, and the first thing he says is, I want to be a woman. Surely some procedure should be gone through whereby that boy or that girl, we'll say boy for simplicity, decides this is his gender, at least, and that he cannot reverse back out of it. So if he wants to be a woman, he would immediately be stopped partaking in any event that's a boy. And when he'd go in to do his exams or when he chooses curriculum at school, he'd choose women's subjects. That's if this is to be the way. How can a Garda or a teacher be expected to take the word of a young criminal, young Martin Cahill, the criminal? How can he be expected just to take the word of a courier caught on the spot who decides to disrupt the whole arrest and everything by using this get out? If the government wants that, what process is brought in for it? Was this boy down in, which we don't know, I'm desperately trying to find out, down in Williamstown School, was this boy, is he still a woman? There should be some mark on it. But even if there is, a new teacher could be asked, will you agree to call a boy they, if we say that's what the boy has to be called? Well, the teacher would be entitled to ask back, how will I know who's who? Have you any system in place to decide what's a boy and what isn't? Why should I be entitled to make that judgment? I'm not expertise in genderism. You get me point. The question about the boy is, did he enter the school as a boy? Did he spend a couple of years in the school as a boy? At what stage did he decide he was a woman? At what stage was it decided he was a woman? What is the authority of the school? Have they professional training on transgenderism and gender science? Did this other teacher that came up, that went off and made this rule, had she any qualification on this subject? When a teacher goes for interview for a job, is there any policy there? Is there any well-considered document there? Is it Helen McEntee that decides what the law is? Does she know anything about the law? Did she study much of it, or what has she? Did she take the Attorney General's advice? The Attorney General is the advisor to the government. Is there any advice on this? That the Irish state can turn around without any effort on its behalf and put the onus on Gardaí, on teachers, on prison officers, on nurses, to decide what the policy is, depending on the whim of the matron or the head of the hospital or the superintendent or the school inspector or school board, all paid for from our taxes. What way is the teacher meant to behave? You don't know whether one day you're one way, the other way you're the other way. That's how I'd argue that in the courts. And it's a pity, I don't know, the Burkes probably wouldn't allow it by now. It's gone, they're trying to push it, make a big point out of it, and it certainly is an embarrassment for the government. But it's a pity that some proper court system is not allowed to debate that. And what I would volunteer is to put me grey matter to it, to compile and formulate a case for council to argue and debate that even yet. Now, there may be teachers out there. I know there are a lot of teachers out there who are woke. Shame on yous. You won't debate with me. But there are have to be a lot of teachers out there who are feel strongly about this but cannot open their mouth. type out a letter, drop it to Val Martin, Kingsford, County Cavan. Don't put your name on it or put a fake name or whatever. It won't be probably intercepted, and I would always treat it as very, very confidential. And you might have examples of what's going on there. We need to fight this dirty, rotten disease. We need to fight them big time. Hello? Hello, 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 hello. How are you, Paddy? Oh, yeah, I'm making a video here. Oh, yes. All right, I'll put that in. And what's the other one? Right, I'll put that in. Sorry, Paddy. Sorry about that, folks. Now, Paddy there makes the point about when a woman goes into an Irish hospital to have a baby, she has to be referred to as the person. You can't say her or this lady's going to have a baby or anything else. You have to say the person. Doctor is doing the birth or the midwife. Will you hand me over the person's blood group? Or Nurse Smith, would you hand me over the chart for the blood group of this person? You can't say woman. The other thing is, the Paddy was saying there, you can't refer to a pregnant woman in a gynecologist or a hospital as a pregnant woman. She's an inseminated person. Why? Because the gay, transsexual, homosexual, transgender, this, that, and knows what, feel it is insulting to refer to a pregnant woman as a woman because they want to be pregnant as well. And so you have to refer to an inseminated person, even though the insemination is done by natural means. Natural means, which is the best fun. But it could be done by a means of insemination, like the AI man for the transgender man. They think that they can make them pregnant. These are mad set of hooers. A mad set of hooers. And you can't call the pregnant woman the person. You can't call her the woman. She's the person. Ireland had referenda on that they wanted to take the mother out of the constitution, they wanted to take the woman out of marriage, so they could plug this and make all these transgenders feel so comfortable. Oh, I'm transgender. Oh, we have to get the mother out of the constitution. I might be a mother too. This is the engineering that's going on, and it's all part of the cultural Marxist woke agenda, which thankfully the American people rejected and which I here in Ireland am fighting. Needless to say, I again repeat, folks, it's long enough now, 27 minutes. I'm up for debate on any of this. I'm up for debate anytime, any place. We have to say to the Burkes, maybe you're not as smart as me in ways, maybe you're a bit awkward in ways, but you had the courage to do what you did. And here is one Irishman here, Val Martin, a farmer with cows. Black cows matter, you know. And I back you 100%, if that makes you feel any better. And I only wish I could help and do something to hurt the system and the politicians. And don't forget, last 29th of November, the Irish people had in several constituencies, including mine, the right to vote for somebody who would smash this on the head, and they didn't take it. When you think of what Trump stands for, my policies, and when you think of what Michele Martin was trying to push over, he had to go there, except he was trying to make it appear all was rosy in Ireland. Not all was Rosie O'Donnell in Ireland. Trump said, you'll know her yet, he says. But anyway, when you think of that, the Burkes did tarnish him a bit. They did let the people of America know what was going on. And if anyone on the media in America wants to interview me, I'm always available for interview. We in Ireland are slaves now. We got our independence and we gave it away. There are elections in Romania that are cancelled by the Romanian government. The elections in Germany were blotted out. The elections in Holland were blotted out. And we have two-tier care stormer in Britain, where they desperately try to cling on to the whole woke agenda. And they're failing all the time. And now the next one they have going is they want to raise an army to fight Putin with their transgender boys, calling them they. Fair play to the Burkes. They mightn't have done it well. It is a lie, an LIE, to say that Enoch Burke was in jail for disobeying a court order. He was constructively dismissed from his job. The contract of his employment was breached by the school. The breaching was not reasonable, and it was not in the power of the school to do it. The courts got it wrong, and you have all this mess and time of in jail and everything else. It never was right after that, any more than if you're living in your house and you have your mortgage paid, and by some stroke of a pen or a faulty solicitor, somebody else takes the house off you. It's not their house. It was your house. The falsehood of the courts in putting you out of your house doesn't make it the property of somebody else's in moral or law, but it does put you out on your ear sleeping in the car. And it's the same with the Burkes. They didn't handle it well, but the basic injustice was done. On 30 minutes, folks, that's my mark on Enoch Burke. Let's hear you lefties now. Come on, I want to hear Joe Hayes. Oh, he's unhinged. I want to. He's what's he say? It's disturbing. Oh my God, Joe, when I'm done with you, you'll be more disturbed. And Coughlin's Tom and his old Sinn Féin crowd of old woke whore's there as well. Let's hear from you. Do your damnedest. Good luck, boys. Up Trump. Up Trump. Here's my Patrick's Day emblem. Here's my St. Patrick's Day emblem. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, look at that. See it? There you are now. That's for you now, Coughlin's Tom. That's what you need shoved up you big time. You wet Sinn Féin old idiot. And that's all you are. Old guard and soldier killers. That's all you are. And the other Joe Hayes and all the lefties. We will beat you yet. We'll beat you yet. Up the Burkes. Fair play. Paddy there on the phone made the point. They had the referendum on the marriage. The people said no, 70%. Why don't they have a referendum on this? Because they'd be beaten. 100% or 90% anyway. Why don't they have it? No. They expect an unfortunate teacher trying to earn a crust to carry the whole woes of these confused, screwed up people. The referendum would solve the problem. Except to use Enoch Burke as a test, as a canary in the mine. That's what they're doing. Folks, comment underneath. Very long video, but very, very important here in Ireland. Just give him a kiss there. Give him a kiss. That's the stuff for you dirty, rotten tramps. That's all you are. Good luck, bye.